Kevin Costner spent 5 years turning Yellowstone into the biggest show on television. Then, in June 2024, he walked away. The official story was simple. The real story was not. There were fights over money, missing scripts, and a feud with Taylor Sheridan that got uglier than anyone admitted. There was a $24 million offer he turned down. There was a divorce that drained him in public. And there was a 30-year-old dream he had been quietly protecting the entire time. What pushed him out was not one thing. It was something he had been hiding from fans for years. The Dust Bowl roots. Kevin Costner's story did not begin with fame. It began in a hard-working family that knew what it meant to keep going when life gave them very little choice. He was born Kevin Michael Costner on January 18, 1955, in Linwood, California, the third son of Bill and Sharon Costner. His father worked as a line serviceman for Southern California Edison. His mother worked in welfare. This was not a Hollywood family. This was a family built on work, worry, and doing what had to be done. Behind his father's way of thinking, there was a wound that went back even further. Bill Costner's family had come out of Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl. They had once lived on a wheat farm, but the dust storms destroyed everything. By 1935, the farm was gone, and the family had to head west with nothing but survival on their minds. They were part of that wave of families called Okies, and they were not welcomed kindly. Bill grew up with that fear inside him. A job was not just a job. A job meant food, safety, and still standing. That fear stayed with him for life. Kevin grew up watching that. He admired his father's loyalty and strength, but he also saw what that life meant. Keeping your head down, not dreaming too big, believing Hollywood was for other people. Yet, even as a boy, Kevin was already feeling like he did not fully belong anywhere. His father's job kept moving the family across California. By the time Kevin was a teenager, he had been forced to start over again and again. He kept becoming the new kid. He later said he lost a lot of confidence during those years. Every move meant new faces, new rules, and the same lonely feeling. He became shy. He started writing poetry. He sang in a Baptist choir. He spent a lot of time in his own head. That feeling of being unseen stayed with him for a long time. It hurt him then, but later it would give him a quiet toughness that Hollywood could not easily shake. There was another pain. He was small. At one point in high school, he was just 5 feet 2 inches, standing among boys who seemed to be growing into men much faster. He worried about it. By the time he was around 20, he had grown to 6 feet 1 inch, but the years before left a mark. Still, even then, there was something strong in him. At 18, he built a canoe by himself and paddled more than 1,000 miles toward the Pacific, following the path of Lewis and Clark. Even before the fame, there was a stubborn streak in him that wanted to prove he could do hard things. The Richard Burton moment? By the time Kevin reached college, life finally slowed down. He enrolled at Cal State Fullerton in 1973. In 1975, he met Cindy Silva. She was smart, beautiful, and worked as Snow White at Disneyland. They married on February 11, 1978. He had a degree and a marketing job. The safe path was right in front of him. Then, on a flight home from their honeymoon, Kevin found himself on the same plane as Richard Burton. Burton was already a legend. Kevin asked him a question that had likely been haunting him. Could a man become an actor without destroying his personal life? Burton told him he thought he could. Kevin never forgot it. Not long after, he quit his marketing job. That choice did not bring instant success. It brought struggle. Through the late 1970s and into the 1980s, Kevin fought his way through one small job after another. He took acting classes, he worked on fishing boats, he drove trucks, he gave tours of celebrity homes, he built sets as a carpenter. Some nights he slept in his car. His first film work came in Sizzle Beach, USA, a beach movie he later found embarrassing. Then came a moment that should have been huge. Lawrence Kasdan cast him in The Big Chill as the dead friend. Kevin filmed scenes. Then the final cut came, and almost all of his work was gone. He was barely there, reduced to the image of a corpse. But Kasdan felt bad and remembered him. That mattered later. Kasdan cast him in Silverado in 1985, and that role finally opened the door. The rise and the fall. Then, everything changed fast. In 1987, The Untouchables made him a star. No Way Out followed 2 months later. He was no longer just promising. He was a leading man. Bull Durham and Field of Dreams followed, showing he had range. He could play strength, longing, romance, and loss, often all at once. By the early 1990s, Kevin Costner looked untouchable. Then came Waterworld. What started as a bold project slowly turned into a nightmare. The budget climbed to $175 million, making it the most expensive movie ever made. A hurricane destroyed millions in sets. Scripts kept changing. Critics mocked it with memes like Kevin's Gills. The movie opened at number 1 and earned about $264 million worldwide. But against that budget, it was not enough. The damage to Costner's image was immediate. Then came The Postman in 1997. It won 5 Razzies, including Worst Picture and Worst Actor. Just a few years after Dances with Wolves won Best Picture, Costner had become a national joke. Offers dropped. A list projects started going to other actors. Yellowstone: The Comeback. What made Horizon possible was the very thing that gave Costner his largest comeback in years: Yellowstone. When Yellowstone premiered on June 20, 2018, it did not immediately look like a television earthquake. But the show kept growing. By season 5, it had exploded to over 12 million live viewers. Costner was not a faded movie star anymore. He was the center of television's hottest ranch drama. On January 10, 2023, at age 67, Costner won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Television Series Drama for Yellowstone. But even as he was being honored, his attention was already drifting back to his own film work. John Dutton had brought him back, but Costner's restless need to build something of his own never disappeared. And that is where the trouble started. The feud. From the beginning, Yellowstone demanded a punishing schedule. Costner was spending 5 to 7 months a year in Montana, dealing with cold mornings, dust, snow, horses, and 12-hour days. By 2021 and 2022, it was wearing on him. He was in his late 60s and trying to carry Horizon forward at the same time. Reports began to describe growing tension between Costner and Taylor Sheridan, the creator of Yellowstone. Sheridan had built the show into a flagship franchise, expanding into Star 1 8A3-star, Star 1 923-star, and more. He reportedly wanted total focus and consistency. Costner, meanwhile, was trying to shape his own film schedule around Horizon. By 2023, those tensions became public. Costner said he had made room in his schedule to shoot enough material for Yellowstone Season 5, even stepping away from other work for a month, only to arrive and find no finished script. In his telling, things imploded. Sheridan was said to be pushing back against Costner's need for control and trying to take the series in a darker direction. By April 2023, Costner's character was already being pushed out of promotional material. The $24 million offer. During court papers in September 2023, Costner said he had been offered exactly $24 million to stay on Yellowstone for seasons 6 and 7. But when talks shifted to Season 5 Part 2, he claimed the studio came back with less money per episode than he had made before. To him, that felt insulting. He had already tried to cut his yearly shooting days from 65 to 50. But the lower pay, combined with creative fights, made the deal feel like a step backward. Then there was the issue of scripts. By September 2023, Costner was deep in Utah working on Horizon. Yet, he still made time to return for Yellowstone. But, according to him, when he arrived, there were no finished scripts ready for the remaining episodes. He later said he could not act on half-written pages. For him, that was the breaking point. The divorce. At the same time, his personal life was under enormous pressure. In April 2023, his wife Christine Baumgardner separated from him after 18 years of marriage, filing for divorce on May 1st. What followed was a brutal legal fight over money, support, and property. Court documents turned private pain into public spectacle. By September 19, 2023, they reached a settlement finalized in February 2024. Even for someone used to public scrutiny, that level of stress would have been crushing. The Horizon gamble. And through all of this, the Horizon gamble was hanging over him. He had already put around $38 million of his own money into the project. He had spent decades trying to make it real. As of early 2026, the Horizon saga has taken another turn. Chapter 2, which was originally set for a quick release, has been delayed multiple times. Meanwhile, Chapter 3 recently wrapped production in Utah under a cloud of uncertainty. Paramount has not yet announced a new release strategy, and critics have been divided, some praising Costner's ambition, others calling it bloated and self-indulgent. The Hollywood Reporter noted in February 2026 that Costner's passion project is testing the limits of studio patience and audience appetite. Adding to the pressure, in March 2026, a new report surfaced that Warner Bros. Had quietly pulled back from a planned distribution deal for the Horizon sequels, leaving Costner scrambling for financing. He has since been in talks with independent financiers, but industry insiders say the window for a successful franchise may be closing. One anonymous executive told Deadline, "Kevin bet the house on this. The question is whether anyone will be there to buy tickets." The farewell. In June 2024, after months of rumors, Costner finally posted a short farewell video to fans. He said he loved Yellowstone, knew they loved it too, and wanted them to know he would not be returning. Then he ended with a line that said everything about where his mind was now. "I'll see you at the movies." It was a goodbye, but it was also a declaration. He was choosing Horizon. He was choosing the dream that had haunted him for 30 years. He was once again betting on himself. That has always been the whole story with Kevin Costner. The same stubbornness that helped him rise is the same stubbornness that kept knocking him down. It fueled Dances with Wolves. It helped create Waterworld and The Postman. It carried him through years when Hollywood stopped paying attention. It gave him Open Range, Hidden Figures, Yellowstone, and Horizon. It made him hard to control, hard to dismiss, and impossible to fully write off. Even when the industry mocked him, even when the headlines turned cruel, even when the numbers looked ugly, he kept moving toward the version of the story he believed in. The real reason Kevin Costner left Yellowstone is simple and complicated. At the same time, he has never known how to stop chasing his own vision. And that, more than any feud or contract dispute, is what finally pushed him out the door. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.